Have you ever wondered, could the shirt you're wearing carry a hidden spiritual message? Some symbols that seem like just cool designs on jackets, caps, or jewelry actually have ancient roots in rituals, and not always the good kind. Fashion isn't always just self-expression. Sometimes it's a silent gateway to forces we never meant to invite in. The clothes we wear aren't just fabric sewn together into a shape. They carry meaning, they carry intention, and in some cases, they even carry spiritual weight. Every pattern, every symbol, and even the way a garment is designed can hold deeper significance than we might imagine. In today's world, we're often told that fashion is all about expressing our identity, that what we wear is simply a matter of personal taste. But what if I told you that certain things we put on our bodies can actually open doors to spiritual influences we never intended to entertain? Think about it for a moment. Why do the same mysterious symbols keep showing up in high fashion, streetwear, jewelry, even children's clothing? Is it purely aesthetic? Or is there something more intentional at play? The enemy has always worked in subtle ways. Rarely does evil announce itself openly. Instead, it disguises itself, often in things that look stylish, harmless, or even desirable, because it knows most people would never consciously welcome dark spiritual forces into their lives. So instead, it deceives, hiding behind the things we casually accept, things we wear without ever questioning. Throughout history, civilizations have used clothing not just for covering the body, but as a spiritual statement. Ancient warriors wore garments marked with sacred sigils for protection in battle. Priests and shamans adorned themselves with specific colors and designs believed to invoke divine favor or power. Even now, in many cultures, people still dress, in certain ways for luck, blessing, or spiritual alignment. But here's the thing, what can be used for good can also be used for evil. And the enemy knows this. He understands the symbolic language of fashion, so he's embedded his influence into modern style, wrapping darkness in beautiful aesthetics, slowly dulling our spiritual sensitivity. Take a look at the rise of occult imagery in today's fashion. Not long ago, symbols like the pentagram, the all-seeing eye, or the inverted cross were reserved for secret societies, ritual books, or forbidden ceremonies. Now, they're on t-shirts, jackets, hats, and accessories being worn casually in broad daylight. These aren't just trendy prints, they are ancient emblems used in witchcraft, dark rituals, and demonic practices for generations, and yet people wear them, day in, day out, without the faintest idea of what they represent. And it's not just the obvious ones. Some symbols are much more subtle. Ancient runes, alchemical signs, and even specific animal patterns. Many of these have roots in occult traditions. They come from rituals designed to summon spirits, manipulate energy, or channel power from sources that are anything but holy. When we wear these symbols, knowingly or unknowingly, we align ourselves with their original intent. Some might say, well, I don't believe in that stuff. It's just a design to me. But let me ask you, does the spiritual realm operate based on your personal belief, or does it function according to spiritual laws? Laws that apply whether we believe in them or not. So what's really happening in the world of fashion today? And how can we discern the difference between harmless style and spiritually charged deception? Previously, we explored how fashion can subtly carry spiritual weight, how symbols once hidden in ancient rituals are now boldly displayed in modern clothing. But the question remains, why has our world become so drawn to darkness? Have you noticed it? Darkness is no longer hidden, it's everywhere. It's in the music we hear, the movies we watch, the content flooding our social media feeds. And it's deeply rooted in fashion. Once upon a time, occult symbols were kept behind closed doors, shared only among secret societies, whispered in corners, understood only by those deeply initiated. But now, they're flaunted on runways, stamped on t-shirts, and sold to millions who have no clue what they're truly putting on their bodies. Many brush it off. It's just fashion, just a vibe, just an edgy look. But let me be clear, the enemy doesn't deal in vibes. He deals in deception, strategic, intentional, calculated deception. Look around at what's being promoted today. The pentagram, the inverted cross, the all-seeing eye. These aren't just random shapes that designers picked out of a hat to be artsy. These are ancient emblems, long associated with rituals, oaths, and spiritual allegiances. Symbols that have always stood for something much darker than what mainstream culture wants to admit. We're told it's just creativity, just personal expression. But symbols mean things. They always have. From the very beginning, the enemy has had one tactic: blur the lines between good and evil. And if he can convince people to dabble in darkness, even unknowingly, he's already halfway to victory. So what does he do? He doesn't make darkness look horrifying. He makes it look cool. He takes fearsome imagery and repackages it as bold, rebellious, and fashionable. What was once disturbing is now desirable. And when people put on these items, whether or not they believe in what the symbols mean, they're still inviting the weight of those meanings, that spiritual baggage, into their lives. Ever asked yourself why these specific symbols keep appearing in the collections of the world's most powerful fashion houses? Do you really think it's all a coincidence? It's not. It's intentional. Many top designers today are not shy about their fascination with the mystical. Some have spoken openly about their involvement in esoteric knowledge, spiritual rituals, and even occult practices. They're not hiding it. In fact, they weave these ideas directly into their clothing lines, knowing full well that the more people wear these symbols, the more their meanings become normalized, accepted, and even celebrated. And it's not always as blatant as a pentagram. Sometimes the darkness is much subtler. Ever seen fashion covered in snakes, skulls, flames, or symbols of destruction? Ever noticed how common it is to see clothing that glorifies death, rebellion, and chaos? None of that is accidental. The Bible tells us clearly, the enemy comes to steal, kill, and destroy. And yet, those are exactly the themes we see, being praised and worn as trendy statements. They tell us, it's just style, it's just self-expression. But you have to ask, whose expression is it really? The enemy is clever. He doesn't come dressed in horns with a pitchfork. No, he cloaks himself in beauty. He uses creativity as camouflage. He wraps sin in aesthetics so that it looks harmless at first glance. So how do we guard ourselves? How do we start to see the hidden messages that are being sold to us, stitched into every thread? In the last part, we saw how the enemy doesn't come dressed in red with horns. He comes clothed in beauty, wrapped in symbols we've been taught to admire. But what happens when we stop questioning those symbols? That's when the real danger begins. The moment we begin to accept darkness as just fashion, the moment we let our guard down and stop paying attention, we open a door that was never meant to be opened. Not just a door to style or image, but a door into our spiritual lives. And that's exactly what the enemy wants. He's not just after your wardrobe, he's after your soul. If he can get you to celebrate the things that belong to his kingdom, if he can convince you to wear them, to display them proudly, to defend them, then he's already taken a foothold in your life. And most people won't even realize it's happening. That's why awareness matters. That's why we must stay vigilant. It's time to wake up, to stop letting the world tell us what's acceptable. Because here's the truth. If something is rooted in darkness, it doesn't belong in our lives, no matter how trendy or popular it might be. We can't say we walk in the light while clothing ourselves in signs of rebellion and death. We are called to be set apart, and that includes every decision we make, even the things we wear. Look around today and you'll realize fashion is no longer just about clothing. It's about influence. It's about shaping thoughts, shifting culture, and spreading messages, one outfit at a time. And if you look closely, you'll start to notice a pattern. Something troubling. The most powerful names in fashion, the most followed, celebrities, the loudest voices in pop culture. Many of them are consistently promoting imagery that comes straight out of occult traditions. That's not by mistake. Fashion has become one of the most influential forces on the planet. It tells people what to wear, how to feel about themselves, what to admire, what to value. And beneath the surface, behind the flashing lights of the runway and the perfectly curated Instagram posts, there's an agenda at play, an agenda that has nothing to do with God. Why do you think so many celebrities are drawn to clothing covered in demonic symbols? Why the obsession with pentagrams, the all-seeing eye, and repeated references to the occult? Why is death, rebellion, and chaos being marketed as powerful or free-spirited? Because the industry they serve isn't just creative, it's spiritual, and not in a holy way. Many of these celebrities openly admit their interest in mysticism, hidden knowledge, and secret societies. Some even participate in rituals most people wouldn't believe were real. And whether they fully understand it or not, they are being used as tools, leading millions to accept what should have never been acceptable. Because when your favorite celebrity wears something, you stop questioning it, don't you? You start thinking, it's just a cool look. It's just fashion. It's just a personal statement. But let me ask you something. Why would the enemy need to appear scary when he can stroll into your life wearing designer labels endorsed by the people you admire the most? Why bother terrifying you with darkness when he can make it look glamorous, powerful, liberating? Earlier, we uncovered how celebrities, whether knowingly or not, are being used as vessels to glamorize darkness, making it look powerful, desirable, and acceptable. But here's the deeper truth. People imitate what they admire. And that's exactly what the enemy is counting on when the people in the spotlight wear symbols rooted in darkness, when they mock God through fashion and celebrate sin like it's the new standard. They're not just making a statement. They're sending a loud and clear message to millions watching from the sidelines. This is cool. This is normal. This is what success looks like, and without even realizing it, people follow, they imitate, they buy the same clothes, embrace the same aesthetic, absorb the same messages, without pausing for a single moment to ask, what am I really wearing? What am I aligning myself with? These are not just trends. These are spiritual influences, creeping into people's lives, one outfit at a time. And it's not just celebrities. Some of the biggest fashion designers in the world are also part of this subtle spiritual push. Have you ever noticed how often high fashion mocks the sacred? Upside-down crosses, blasphemous artwork, clothes featuring demonic imagery, sometimes even direct references to known dark figures. These designs don't hide their message. In fact, they showcase it boldly, sometimes even on the runway, and yet people line up to buy them. They walk into luxury stores and spend hundreds, even thousands of dollars on clothing covered in symbols that directly oppose everything God stands for. This is not just about how good something looks on the outside. This is about something deeper. This is spiritual warfare, because the enemy understands something that far too many people overlook. What you wear reflects what you align yourself with. That's why in Scripture, clothing isn't just physical, it's symbolic. Priests wore sacred garments to distinguish themselves as set apart for God. Prophets wore garments that reflected their divine calling. Even the robe of Jesus was so significant that Roman soldiers gambled to own it. Clothing always meant something. It still does. And today, the fashion industry is using that same principle, but twisting it to push an agenda that is far from godly. The world wants to dull your sensitivity. It wants to convince you that none of this matters. It's just clothes. You're overthinking it. It's not that deep. But let me ask you, when did we become so numb to the symbols of darkness? When did we start embracing what we once rejected? This is how the enemy works. Not with loud alarms, but with slow deception. A little compromise here. A small symbol. There. He moves inch by inch, until the once unthinkable becomes totally acceptable. But we are called to more. We are called to be set apart, to see through the lies, to walk in discernment, not in blind imitation of trends we can't keep, letting pop culture and influencers decide what we put on our bodies. Because whether we realize it or not, what we wear is speaking, and the spiritual realm is always listening. In the last part, we asked a powerful question. What are we really aligning ourselves with when we put something on our bodies? Because at the core, this conversation is not just about fashion. It's about faith, about who we serve. At the end of the day, this isn't just about style or trends or self-expression. It's about allegiance. And if the things we wear glorify darkness, even unintentionally, then we need to pause and ask ourselves an uncomfortable but necessary question. Are we truly walking in the light or just blending into the shadows? The truth is, most people don't think twice about what they wear. They see something cool at the mall or online, they buy it and they wear it, often without even glancing at what it says, what it symbolizes, or where it came from. But what if I told you that some clothing carries more than just fabric and thread? What if certain pieces, certain accessories, symbols, or even entire brands carry a spiritual weight? Not just cultural influence, not just aesthetic, but actual spiritual baggage. Because the enemy doesn't always come through the front door. No, he hides in plain sight. He knows that if he can get people to accept things without question, if he can wrap darkness in a hoodie or disguise a ritualistic symbol as trendy jewelry, most won't even notice. And that's how he wins, quietly, gradually, through our passivity. You see, across different cultures and spiritual traditions around the world, clothing and jewelry have long been used in rituals. Some garments were created for the sole purpose of summoning spirits, channeling energies, or dedicating a person to a specific spiritual force. They were never meant to be neutral. They had intent. And while modern society may have forgotten those origins, the spiritual realm hasn't. Just because we wear something as a fashion statement doesn't mean its original purpose has vanished. Spirits don't vanish simply because people stop believing in them. If something was created for darkness, it still carries that intention, regardless of our awareness. Ever noticed how some trends seem to appear overnight? Out of nowhere, style floods the runway, takes over social media, and suddenly, it's everywhere. On influencers, in ads, in store windows. Most people just assume it's the latest fashion wave. But if you dig a little deeper, you'll often discover these styles didn't come from nowhere. Many of them have roots in ancient spiritual practices, practices never meant to be toyed with, and definitely not meant to be worn lightly. Take jewelry, for example, necklaces, rings, bracelets. So many of them feature symbols or inscriptions that most buyers never even try to interpret. But those markings, those designs, often come from spiritual systems that carry meaning and intent. When you put them on without knowing their origins, you may be wearing more than you bargained for. So how can we start recognizing these things? How can we become more spiritually aware, even in the small decisions, like what we wear or what we buy? In the last part, we uncovered how fashion trends and symbols can carry hidden spiritual baggage, and how most people wear them without ever questioning what they're truly putting on. But let's go deeper, because some of these designs weren't just inspired by darkness, they were created for it. Some accessories that flood today's fashion scene are far more than just trendy pieces. Many of them trace back to protective charms from pagan rituals, used to shield the wearer, connect them with deities, or even act as spiritual gateways. Yet now, they're mass-produced and sold like any other necklace or ring, worn daily by people who have no idea what they're inviting into their lives. And it doesn't stop there. Consider certain fabrics, patterns, or prints that have deep roots in ancient spiritual ceremonies. Some of these were never meant to be decorative. They were created with specific spiritual functions to channel energy, mark initiations, or signal allegiance to particular gods or forces. These patterns weren't fashion statements, they were ritual tools. But today, they're picked up by fashion houses, manufactured at scale, and sold to the masses. People walk around wrapped in designs that were originally meant for spiritual dedication, and they don't even know it. Even brand collaborations aren't off the hook. Some of the most well-known designers have openly admitted that their collections were influenced by occultism, esoteric rituals, or mystical teachings. They speak about being drawn to spiritual darkness or ancient symbolism for creative inspiration. And yet, their collections hit the shelves and are worn by people who just think they're being fashionable, never realizing they're literally covering themselves in spiritually charged material. Now you might be thinking, but I didn't take part in the ritual. I just bought the shirt. Fair enough, but let me ask you this. If you knew an object had been cursed, would you bring it into your home? If you knew something had been used in a demonic ceremony, would you wear it around your neck just because it looked cool? The truth is, spiritual influence doesn't require your belief to be real. Just like poison doesn't stop being poison, simply because someone refuses to believe in it. A spiritually tainted object doesn't lose its influence just because the person holding it is unaware, and that's why discernment is so important. Over and over again, the Bible urges us to test the spirits, to stay alert, and to avoid anything that even appears evil. But in today's world, people are unknowingly walking around wearing symbols that were literally designed with dark spiritual intent woven into them. And the enemy, he doesn't need your worship. He just needs you to stop asking questions, to let your guard down, to be more focused on how you look than on what you're letting in. Because the moment you casually put on something that was intended to invite darkness, he's already found a subtle, silent way to attach influence to your life without you ever noticing. This isn't about paranoia. This is about wisdom. It's about awareness. Because when you begin to ask the right questions, when you pause long enough to notice the signs, you'll start to see just how carefully the world has been designed to pull people further from God. One outfit at a time, one symbol at a time, one careless choice at a time. And when your eyes are opened, when you see these things for what they truly are, you won't just change your wardrobe, you'll start changing the atmosphere you allow into your life. Because here's something most people never stop to consider. In this world, nothing is random. Not what we see, not what we hear, and definitely not what we wear. In the last part, we uncovered how nothing in this world is random, not even the symbols on our clothing. But the problem is, the world has trained us to stop asking questions. We've been conditioned, slowly, subtly, to accept what's in front of us, to follow whatever's trending, to assume that a trend is just that, a passing moment, harmless, meaningless. But pause for a second and think. Why is it always the same symbols? Why do so many brands, so many designers, so many corporations keep pushing the exact same imagery over and over again? The all-seeing eye, the pentagram, the serpent, the inverted cross. These aren't just scattered creative ideas. They are patterns, and patterns point to intentionality. These symbols don't keep showing up by coincidence. They are being placed strategically, hidden in logos, woven into fabrics, subtly integrated into everyday outfits. And the reason is simple. The enemy doesn't operate through chaos. He operates through design. He knows that the easiest way to desensitize people to darkness is to surround them with it constantly, to saturate the world in it until we stop noticing, until the things that once disturbed us become normal. And what better vehicle to do that through than fashion? If he can get people to proudly wear demonic symbols without even realizing it, if he can turn once sacred lines into blurry decorative statements, then half the battle is already won. Just look at the world's most powerful brands. Their logos aren't just aesthetic. Many of them are deeply spiritual, some rooted in ancient sigils, occult markings, or numerical codes tied to demonic influence. These aren't just branding choices, they are declarations, broadcasted on t-shirts, hoodies, sneakers, and more, and people wear them, promote them, even defend them, without having any idea what they're truly standing for. Let's be honest, The same symbols keep appearing for a reason. This is not random design. It's not art for art's sake. These are signals, messages, spiritual alignments. And the people behind many of these brands, they're not hiding it. Some of them speak openly about their fascination with mysticism, esoteric knowledge, and spiritual rebellion. They admit their desire to blur the line between light and darkness. And they embed these themes into the very products people buy, wear, and post online every single day. The truth is this: every time someone puts on a shirt or accessory marked with these symbols, they're coming into agreement with something they may not even understand. You might hear someone say, "I don't believe in any of that. It's just a logo, it's just a design." But let me tell you something. The spiritual realm doesn't care whether you believe in it or not. It doesn't require your belief to be real. It just requires your agreement. If a logo was created with the intent to represent something demonic, that meaning doesn't vanish just because someone is unaware. Wearing it still carries a spiritual consequence, whether you feel it or not, whether you intend it or not. That's why Scripture warns us, not just to stay away from evil, but to avoid even the appearance of it, to guard our hearts, to be discerning about what we align ourselves with. But today, so many people, young and old alike, are unknowingly walking around wearing symbols that stand completely opposed to God. They think it's harmless, just fashion, just a brand, just another trend. But what they don't realize is, the moment they put it on, they're sending a message. They're making a statement. They're identifying themselves with something, whether they mean to or not. And the enemy, he's thrilled when people stop paying attention. He rejoices when they say, "It's just a vibe. It's just streetwear. It doesn't mean anything." Because as long as you're not paying attention, he doesn't have to hide. So, how do we start paying attention again? How do we train our eyes and our hearts to recognize what's truly influencing us? In the last part, we exposed how the enemy thrives when people stop paying attention. When questioning stops, influence spreads. And that's exactly his goal. Because the less people ask questions, the easier it is for him to keep advancing his agenda, quietly, steadily, without resistance. And what is that agenda? It's to normalize darkness, to make demonic imagery feel so familiar, so fashionable that no one flinches anymore, that no one sees a problem with it. But we are not called to go along with the world. We are called to be set apart, to walk in the light, to be mindful of what we allow into our lives and onto our bodies. We can't afford to wear something just because it looks good or because it's trending. We have to ask deeper questions. Where did this come from? What does it represent? What am I aligning myself with by wearing it? Because at the core, this conversation has never really been about fashion. It's about something spiritual. And if we don't start paying attention now, we may wake up one day and realize we've been walking around wearing the enemy's agenda without even knowing it. There was a time, not too long ago, when modesty and dignity were seen as virtues. When the way someone dressed said something about their character, their values, their self-respect. But something has shifted. Look around today, and you'll see how far we've drifted. The fashion industry seems to be doing everything it can to strip people of their dignity, to erase modesty, and to keep pushing boundaries until nothing sacred remains. Clothing, which once reflected honor, now often serves as a tool for provocation. What used to symbolize confidence and self-worth is now used to glorify lust, not godliness. The enemy knows exactly what he's doing. He always has. Because if he can distort how we see ourselves, if he can convince us that our value depends on how much skin we show, then he's already won a major part of the battle. He takes what God created for beauty, purity, and sacred identity and twists it into something meant to distract, degrade, and diminish. He whispers the lie: modesty is old-fashioned. Dignity is restrictive. Real confidence means revealing, not covering, and far too many have believed it. Scroll through any ad campaign today, and you'll see it plain as day. Clothing that leaves nothing to the imagination is celebrated. Lust is sold as empowerment. Sensuality is marketed as confidence, but we rarely stop to consider, what are we really participating in when we wear these things? What kind of spiritual atmosphere are we carrying with us? Because make no mistake, the enemy doesn't just tempt through words. He tempts through images, through fabric, through fashion. So how do we reclaim our identity? How do we dress in a way that honors God without falling for the lies of culture? In the last section, we explored how the enemy uses fashion to distort identity and celebrate the very things God warns against. But it goes deeper than cultural trends. It's about influence, spiritual influence. Because the enemy doesn't just whisper lies, he paints them into images, wraps them in fabric, and parades them down runways. He uses appearance, style, and the way people dress as stumbling blocks, not only for others, but also for the person wearing them. You see, this isn't only about avoiding being a temptation to others. It's about examining the spiritual condition of the one putting on the clothes. When someone chooses to dress in a way that embraces lust, seduction, or immorality, they may not realize it, but they are aligning themselves with a spirit that is not of God. The Bible speaks directly to this. It warns us against immodesty, against the spirit of seduction, against using appearance as a tool for attention, pride, or validation. But the world has flipped the script. It tells us the exact opposite. It teaches that if you're not flaunting your body, you're missing out. That if you don't show more skin, you're insecure or out of touch. But who's really writing that script? The enemy knows exactly what he's doing. He's not just changing fashion, he's changing mindsets. He's rewriting the definition of value for an entire generation. Convincing young women and men that their worth is in their waistline, their following, their appearance. That being noticed by the world matters more than being honored by God. And once that lie sinks in, it runs deep. It shapes identity. It hijacks purpose. And worst of all, it blinds people to the truth of who they really are in Christ. Just look at how fast these trends spread. One celebrity wears something provocative, and suddenly millions are copying it without question. One influencer posts a bold photo, and just like that, it becomes the new normal. No one stops to ask, does this reflect my faith? Does this align with my values, or with the world's agenda? People follow the wave, afraid of standing out, afraid of being called too much, too modest, or too religious. But let me tell you something important. Choosing righteousness has never been about fitting in. Choosing modesty, choosing dignity, choosing to reflect God's purity in how you present yourself, it's not weakness, it's strength, it's courage. It's refusing to let the world define your identity when you already know who you are in Him. And no, this isn't about enforcing some rigid dress code. It's not about legalism or rules. It's about recognizing that what you wear communicates something. It reveals what you honor, who you represent, and where your heart truly stands. The Bible calls God's people to be set apart, even in how they present themselves. So ask yourself, does what I'm wearing honor God? Or does it support the agenda of a world that's running from Him? Because here's the truth. The enemy will keep pushing the boundary. He will keep trying to blur the line between purity and temptation. But you don't have to follow. You don't have to compromise. You don't have to be led by a culture that's lost its way. You can choose wisdom. You can choose dignity. You can choose to reflect the light of God, even in the simplest of choices, like what you wear. And when you do that, you don't just shift your wardrobe, you shift the atmosphere around you. But what does it really mean to be set apart in a world so determined to blend everything together? So now the question is no longer, does fashion matter? The real question is, who am I representing with what I wear each day? You see, the world keeps telling you that clothing is just about personal taste or aesthetic. But in the spiritual realm, nothing is just for looks. Every choice carries a message, whether it aligns with the light or with the darkness. You don't have to overhaul your entire wardrobe overnight. But you can start by asking yourself, what is this outfit saying about me? Who does it glorify? Is it pulling me closer to God or pulling me away? Remember this, you weren't created to blend in. You were created to shine like a light in the midst of darkness. You're not just wearing clothes, you're wearing identity. If this video stirred something in your heart, don't keep it to yourself. Share it. Start a conversation. Let light spread through awareness, through truth, and through the courage to live differently. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell, because I'll be diving even deeper into the spiritual truth behind modern culture, fashion, music, media, and more. Are you ready to walk with your eyes wide open? I'll see you in the next video.